On this channel, I have lessons on all kinds of different programming languages, C, C#, Java, and others besides. But whenever I have something about Pascal, usually somebody leaves a comment down below, something along the lines of, but why would anybody want to program Pascal these days? I mean, isn't it really old language and nobody uses it anyway, do they? Well, let me deal with all of those things shortly. There are very good reasons why you should program, or why you might want to program Pascal, whether you're a beginner or quite an experienced programmer, and I'll come to those shortly. But first, let me deal with this little criticism that keeps popping up. Nobody uses Pascal, do they? I've got the Tiobi index on my monitor in front of me here. That's it's a site that collates different information to try to get some estimate of the interest, the real world interest, the jobs available, the jobs on offer for different programming languages. And usually these days, the top four are in different orders. They vary from month to month, but something like Python, C, C#, Java, and C++. And then later on, you'll get the other languages. Well, let's have a look where Pascal is. Pascal is, this month, at a quite respectable number 10 in this list. To give you some idea of how that compares with other languages, you go down to PHP is number 15, Scratch 17, Rust 18, Kotlin 19, Prolog, Swift, Ruby is way down at 26. So to be at position 10 is quite a respectable position in the index. So people are using Pascal. They are using either Object Pascal with Delphi, that's the commercial product that really established Pascal in Windows, or else increasingly using Free Pascal and Lazarus for cross-platform development. Now, I've been using Pascal for absolutely ages. This behind me here is Turbo Pascal. That's a DOS version of Pascal, which that dates from the 1980s, and I was programming Pascal in the 1980s. Here on this monitor is a more modern cross-platform Pascal. That's Free Pascal, hosted in the Lazarus environment, and Lazarus and Free Pascal are available on Windows, on Mac, or on Linux, and I'll talk a little bit about that shortly. Okay, so why would you want to program in Pascal? There are two issues here to address. For a new programmer or a novice programmer, somebody who's learning to program, Pascal is a wonderful choice. Pascal was created by Niklaus Wirth specifically really to teach good programming practice. So in Pascal, you can't get away with the sort of things you'd be able to get away with in Python or Ruby or Java or C#. It's quite a strict language. Everything has to be typed, everything has to be declared in a, variables have to be declared in a special variable declaration block. There's even a distinction between different types of subroutine. Something that returns a value is a function. Something that doesn't return a value is called a procedure, and they have keywords to indicate the difference. So it's a very tightly structured language. You can't get away with dirty tricks, and you can't get away with mixing in variables or failing to declare them, and so on. So even if you later on move on to other languages, learning the skills of programming with Pascal is really something worth doing. Okay, but maybe you're not a beginner. Maybe you are a more experienced developer. Why on earth would you want to use Pascal? I use Pascal myself, and I'll tell you why. In spite of the fact that I do a lot of programming in C and C# and Java, I use Pascal quite a lot. On this channel, you'll find quite a number of tutorials about Pascal. I've got some about Delphi, that's the commercial edition of Pascal, and I've got quite a big project I guide you through. You'll find on the playlists page of my channel to create a drag and drop outliner. More recently, I've been using this, that's Lazarus. Lazarus is the name of the IDE for Free Pascal. That is wonderful for cross-platform programming. So even if you're doing visual design, dragging and dropping buttons and, lists and all the rest of it onto a form. You can save your project. I frequently start off programming on Windows, copy that project across to my Raspberry Pi, which runs a version of Linux, and I can continue, even with the visual design, using Lazarus on the Raspberry Pi. And then I can compile it for Linux, or if you're using a Mac, you could compile it on a Mac. And you've got this interchangeable project format and language that you can move from the IDE and the compiler, one operating system to another. There are other good things about the Pascal language. One of the things I like about Pascal is these days we have the syntax called Object Pascal, which has the full range of what you'd expect from a modern object-oriented language. Classes, class hierarchies, the whole network of support classes for manipulating lists and various types of dictionaries and all the rest of it, and exception handling and so on and so forth. But you can also program in a procedural style, traditional Pascal. Now, traditional Pascal actually lets you do a lot of what you would perhaps these days normally expect a C programmer to do. So although Pascal is a high-level language, and although you have access to the object-oriented form of Pascal, you can also manipulate pointers and point to addresses and create linked lists and trees and all that sort of thing that you'd probably normally associate these days more with C. So it gives you that bridge between quite high-level, object-oriented language and a more low-level language where you are manipulating memory and dealing with pointers, direct access using pointers if you wish. You don't have to, but you can do it if you wish. So for all those reasons, I really recommend Pascal even to this day for certain applications. Great for visual design, for command line programs as well. Oh, incidentally, if you don't like Lazarus, if you don't like the whole Windows and menus way of doing it, Free Pascal, the compiler, also has its own its own IDE and editor that you can run from the command line, text-based, more like the old Turbo Pascal way of doing things. So it gives you all of that, plus the cross-platform capability. I think Pascal, even in 2025, is a language that more people should be using. And if you used it, you would soon discover that it's a wonderful language for all kinds of different applications, the sort of things that you might normally write in Java or C#, or the sort of things that a C programmer would also be able to write. Great language, free, if you go for Lazarus and Free Pascal, completely free. Even the commercial version of Delphi, you can get a free version with some licensing restrictions, but the Free Pascal and Lazarus, totally free. Run it on whichever operating system or systems you're using. Give it a try and let me know what you think in the comments down below.